All right. Hello, everyone. So, welcome to, our first edition of what we call ChatSME, where we chat with Singapore SMEs on their thoughts about AI. And my name is Leonard. I'm the co-founder of Voltade. We help Singapore SMEs customize AI assistants. And today we have a really special guest. His name is Timothy. Timothy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi guys, hi Leonard. Pleasure to be here. So I'm Timothy. I'm the founder of Illum. We are an enrichment center, primarily focusing on English, general paper, and humanities. I've been a teacher for most of my life, I guess. Been teaching since 18. I was previously from MOE before we started Illum. And I'm happy to be here to share more about how different things are going with regards to my company and with regards to education as well.
Yeah, so fun fact for the audience. This is not something I've told Timothy, but whenever I speak to Timothy,
Right.
I have to make sure I speak like good English
I'll
and
try not to
just
be a grammar Nazi here and there, but there are some occupational hazards that will happen along the way. Like I may want to autocorrect some things, but I try not to do that too much. Yeah,
All right, Timothy. So I guess
yeah.
let's rewind the clock, right? And let's talk about
Hmm.
how you were like as a child.
Wow. Okay. Um, I think I was a quiet child, but I'm not a very good student. I'm not sure how to describe this, but I think most teachers we have this karma thing going on where we actually end up being teachers when we were bad students. So I
Wow.
was one of those students that don't really do my homework. I would sometimes play truant here and there, and I would basically be the kid in class that you don't really notice too much. But I realized that since young, I always had this. When I was we talk about the grammar Nazi part about how I would correct grammar. I always envision myself correcting my teachers. Like I would feel, if I was in front, I would not do this. I would try this other method instead. I will make this joke, and it'll be more interesting, more exciting if I say this instead. And it
Yeah.
kind of led up to when I realized, okay, what do I really want to do for a living? And I realized, okay, actually maybe I've been training myself to be a teacher kind of my whole life, and it kind of
That's
fits when I first started teaching. Although I had to go through some areas of growth as well, because I personally was not someone who was very good at speaking. Like I tend to
ah,
speak really fast sometimes, and along the way, I guess is a part of the growth to kind of understand how to speak better and to deliver lessons better as well. I believe when I was younger, I had a little bit of selective mutism. Like I wouldn't really be able to communicate well with female teachers or female
ah.
friends. Yeah, I think it's just a bit of stage fright kind of thing. But along the way, it's kind of with some training and practice, kind of managed to overcome that, and I don't really think I have a problem with that these days anymore.
How's the experience like, as a teacher in your first few years?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is when I first started teaching, I kind of look back because you realize that as a teacher, one of the interesting things is that you never really leave school. You're always in school. You have been a student first, and then you go to university as a student, and you come back to school as a teacher. Your whole life revolves around the school aspect, right? So one
Yeah.
thing I told myself to do was, okay, why don't I try to help people who are like me too, the quiet ones who don't really see anything or do much, and they tend to get ignored most of the time, because most teachers tend to focus on the loud ones who cause problems, maybe, or the ones who are outstanding in terms of maybe academic aspects or other
Yeah.
holistic aspects. So I told myself, let's try to make sure that I don't leave any child behind. I got to make sure that I care for every single student. And so that's been quite an interesting journey. And the most rewarding part of my teaching experience actually was to actually be a form teacher and to kind of
Mm.
help students guide them through different phases of their lives. Especially the whole reason why I chose secondary school as my preferred level was that I felt that this was the time where I could help them most, because this is a time where they
Mm.
go through a lot of life experiences that will mold them or change them completely. So I remember one of the fun parts was earlier in the year. I mean, I used to grow a beard more. I just shaved it today, but I tend to grow a beard because uh, I get a lot of parents come to me and say, how come someone as young as you can be a teacher? Are you an intern here? Yeah, but no. I'm your child's form teacher. The whole year I've been calling you, telling you about different problems and stuff like that. But I don't really believe me until they after a while longer they realize, oh yeah, you are the main teacher of my child. You are not as young as I think you are. Okay, great. That establishes some credibility. But
Yeah.
more importantly was that, like I said, what was enriching was the fact that when you speak to the kids, you could actually see them change and grow over the years. And what's been
Mm.
rewarding is to see them from Sec 1 to Sec 4 and to
Mm.
really remark how much they've grown as a person,
Yeah.
physically, mentally, intellectually, holistically in many ways. And actually, that was what kept me going for a long time. Even though you have a lot of workload as a teacher in different areas, right? It was actually very
Yeah.
impactful to see them change and for them to come up to you and tell you that, whoa, you actually changed my life, through these words that you said or these things that you did. It was one of my form class students whom I made the class chairperson. He was a very, I would say, angry child in a way. In fact, one, he had a lot of temper issues, but he had a lot of potential to be a leader.
Mm.
And so when I made him the class chairperson, he couldn't understand why. He came to me and said, "How come you made me a class chairperson? My classmates hate me. They don't think I can be a good leader." But I explained to him that actually leadership is not really a kind of like you're not born into it. It's not a
Mm.
choice either. You kind of learn from each experience to become a better leader and a better person. And I told him that I saw the good in him, and then if he tried, he would do well. And he did try to be a good class chairperson by putting his best efforts here and there. It didn't always work out the best. There were always challenges in between, especially when teachers come to me and say, "This boy can't be the chairperson. How come you make him chairperson? He shouted in my class or something like that." But I'll explain to the teacher, but he's not doing the wrong thing. He's trying to help you manage a class, for example. You should look at his good things instead of his bad things and focus on why he can lead others and help him instead. And so after a while, I only saw him as my form class chairperson and my student in Sec 1 and 2. In Sec 3 and 4, he went to other classes beyond my reach. I didn't teach him at all as well. But I did see him here and there in CCA because he was in Boys Brigade and I was in NCC. So we tend to overlap here and there. I do see him grow. I see him become a parade
That's
commander and stuff
amazing.
like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really proud of him. But what
Wow.
was my proudest moment was that many years later, I opened up my Instagram and I saw him. Oh, he's
Yeah.
a commissioned officer of the SAF.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
he managed to achieve a lot more success in many other areas. Later on, then when I texted him and said, "Wow, congrats," he did tell me that, "Wow, you changed my life." And I realized, wow,
Wow.
it's not always like the major things that you do that kind of makes a difference. It's the small things that add up as you try and help people that really becomes like a life-changing moment for people, I guess. Like you watch
Yeah.
Korean dramas, there's like,
Yeah.
some major event that happens
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the momentous nice music that appears, time slows down, the leaves fall down, and then suddenly something happens. But in real
Yeah.
life, actually, it's all these small things that you do on a daily basis that adds up together
That's
that
correct.
really makes a difference. And I was quite impressed by how he succeeded so far, and I'm sure he will succeed even more in time to come.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
just listening to this, I can really sense that emotional connection between
Yeah.
you and that student. It almost like transcends the so-called typical job description of a teacher. It almost seems a bit like a father figure, right?
Like what really allows you to teach is to realize that you don't teach the subject, but you teach
Yeah.
the person.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's when teachers become better at teaching as a teacher is when you
Yeah.
can facilitate and engage them in work, right? Through this motivation that you have or this rapport that you have with them, it really improves and enhances their desire to learn and to push themselves. And sometimes
Got,
it doesn't appear just academically; it appears everywhere.
got it. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. One of the things that I heard like as a kid
Hmm.
was it's important to learn how to learn rather than learning the
Yeah, yeah,
subjects
yeah.
themselves. What are your thoughts about that?
I would say so. I feel that actually, like I said, when you are a teacher, you are teaching students and not just a subject.
Correct.
And I think maybe in Singapore, we do get carried away with just grades
Yeah.
and thinking about how, oh, you got to be good in math, you got to be good in science.
Yeah.
But no one has really actually focused a lot on the skills that allow you to become better in math or better in science or better in
Mm.
English later on in life.
Yeah.
And I feel that push to help them see how they can learn better is perhaps what is most needed as a skill in the 21st century, since we're moving towards
Makes
a
sense.
world where factual knowledge is no longer that valued.
Yeah.
Having access to uh, content creation or notes or materials is something that everyone would have, for example.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agree. Yeah. All right. So I guess fast forward
Hmm.
to when you started your company, what made you take that leap of faith?
So actually, I was in the leadership phase in MOE then. I think it was about 8 years in the service, and I asked myself like, what do I want to do at the end? Right?
Yeah.
It's maybe a early midlife crisis for most people. They do say that actually it's a ministry-wide kind of crisis. Like once people have taught for 6 to 8 years, they start to question themselves and what am I doing here? So I did have that same moment of crisis, and I'm sure many other viewers who know people in MOE, they tend to have some questions. Either you stay forever, or you at this point tell yourself, okay, let's try something else. So I asked myself, like, do I envision myself staying in the system, and what am I doing? What am I doing here in the first place? And I realized that actually what I really want to do is to kind of change the world for the better. It's all along been my aim of being a teacher in the first place. I feel that I've done that to some extent with students individually or in my classes or in my school. But I asked myself, so how can I make like a ripple effect, a larger change that could perhaps make the world a much better place than just looking at it from an individual school-wide perspective. So it's either I try to stay in MOE and then try and rise up the ranks, become someone who can, come up with brand new things, or create some game-changing curriculum, right? But I told myself maybe I should try and see what is the fastest way to do that. And I told myself, okay, if so, maybe I should step up and go private and kind of see like how far I can stretch myself. As the same way of asking myself, like, am I really a good teacher as well? Because in MOE, you can't really choose the classes that you teach. And as a leader, then I had to always take on the classes that were a bit more challenging academically, because that was to show other teachers that I could do it too, so you could learn different things as well. But when I stepped up, I realized that what will happen is that I'll be challenging myself to make sure I can help as many people as possible score well and to achieve their best, right? So the challenge and the game is a little bit different now. I'm not just targeting how to help them holistically, I'm targeting how to push them to the limits and to go further, right? And at a point in time, then I thought of myself that maybe it's a good challenge to have. And that's when I started Illum, to really ask myself, how can I really help every single child out there, especially since they may not have good teachers in school, or they may have bad experiences in other areas. How do I make sure that no matter where you're from, you're able to learn and able to score well in English and humanities and general paper? And then with that concept in mind, we started to craft all the different curriculum design in a way that we had to make sure that every single lesson is able to help students do well, no matter what, no matter who teaches it, no matter where you're from. As a student, you're still able to achieve your best. And that was actually the whole philosophy behind Illum. The whole idea that actually anyone can be illuminated and anyone can be empowered.
Illuminated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's why the whole Illum name came about.
Correct.
It has a few side notes to it. Like I think the first thing is Illum. I think the Singaporean pronunciation always tends to be Illumi. Yeah. I realized why that's the case, because in SAF they call illuminated targets Illum targets, and they're ILLUM. Maybe it's just a linguistics thing.
Yeah.
But it's called Illum, but the .e is for me to play with the e-learning aspect.
Got it.
At the same time, as an English teacher, you like wordplay. So illum education stands for that education in Latin. So that education center, if we call it Illum Education Center. So I thought that would be actually amazing as a way of word playing with .e. At the same time, I want to take on the .education domain as well. And it kind of really fits the whole picture at the same time, where we're headed and what we're trying to do as well.
That's really cool. Yeah. So I guess to clarify, so it's Illum or Illam?
It's Illum, fully it's a full name, right?
Okay. Got it.
Yes.
So Illum with the E is pronounced as Illum.
Correct.
And without the E,
it's Illam.
It's Illam. Got it.
Yes, that's right.
Got it.
That's right.
Interesting.
So it's Illum, for example, and then the whole thing is Illum.
Illum.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
that's really interesting. Wow. Okay.
It's also designed into our logo. I'm not sure if you realize that. So actually, the logo is a brain shaped in a question mark.
Yeah.
With all your neural synthesis lighting up, illuminated as you learn. Because when you make connections to concepts, you actually have that moment of and that's what I want to build on as well.
Makes sense. That makes sense. During the first few months of starting Illum, like how did that look like?
You mean the brand itself or life as just the first few months?
Life in your company, the first few months, yeah.
I would say bleak. At the start, every SME goes through the same problem, right? At the start, there's some hope and some light. There's all right, guys, let's do this. People will wish you well, and then you just sit there and wondering, what should I do next? Did I really make the right choice? There are many days that I just sit there staring at the screen, wondering, how do I find more students? What should I do? Should I go and create more videos? Should I just continue teaching? Should I try and ask their friends to come or something like that? Thankfully, that didn't last very long. I mean, I was always asking myself, what are we doing? What can we do to improve? Along the way, it seemed like the lessons really worked, and the results came along with the students. And therefore the word of mouth came a lot with that as well. I think even today, like based on our new students, and we have this poll for them when they first sign up, our word of mouth is about 50%, 60% most of the time. So most of the time, people are coming in because their friends told them, "Hey, Illum is a good place," and that's why I'm happy that actually it's actually a build up of hard work rather than somehow we got lucky. And I'm always wary of that because now that I realize I'm no longer just a teacher, but I'm also a businessman. I'm running a company now. That sometimes dawned on me once in a while. And I realize, okay, wait. And I realize that actually what's important is that there's always consistency to keep the brand evolving and to keep our lessons better and better each time. Because I feel that what's happening in the market or in education all the time, from the start actually, from the very beginning when I first entered school, was that I felt that for some strange reason, the ones who are revolutionary are usually the young teachers. But they are always told to, or everyone is told to look forward and, change the way we teach students. Because at the end of the day, teaching has to be catered for students no matter where they're from. And our students have changed quite drastically from where we were 20 years ago. When you and I were students, for example, they think quite differently from what we do now. And they have different interests, for example. But yet we're not catering to them quickly enough. We're still doing things the way we thought it worked last time. So that's a major flaw that everybody has. Like when you teach somebody something, let's say you have a child, you will teach that child how to, ride a bicycle. You will teach him or her the same way you learn how to ride a bicycle. And that's normal, right? That's the intuitive way, right?
Correct.
But your child is no longer seeing bicycles in the same way as you do, right? And therefore, we have to change the way we think about teaching first to really help them improve as students. And that's why I realized that one important thing is that we had to build an ever-evolving community here at Illum where the teachers, new or young, we always look out at what's happening to our students. We always get feedback from our students. We always get new ideas from either our students or our own staff to kind of improve the way our curriculum is designed so that we can actually meet the needs of our people or our students all the time.
That makes a lot of sense, especially these days with kids growing up in this digital first world, right? Like
that's correct.
From when they're young, I even have my nephew and niece, I think they're 7 or 8, and they're already holding iPads.
I mean, they're younger than that these days. I've seen some parents where the kid is like 2 or 3, and while having their meal, they can control the iPad and point to different videos they want to watch on demand at any point in time.
Yeah.
So surely the way their brains are structured and the way they see things is very different from what we normally do. And you realize that's why maybe kids these days, their attention spans are a little bit different. People complain and say, oh, maybe they are a bit shorter. But I think they are actually quite long. It's just that they are broken into parts. And your task as a teacher is to engage those parts repeatedly through time.
Since we're on this, right, on this so-called digital native kids these days, how is Illum thinking about delivering the experience to this digital native bunch?
Right. So actually, there are a few ways of looking at this. I think many people, when they look at the experience part of helping digital natives, they tend to look at e-platforms just for the sake of doing it.
Correct.
And it is true that maybe if you are using an online platform, the students may find it more engaging. But this is like a surface level. If I let any kid play a game, for the first 5 minutes, you'll find, oh, this is not bad. But if the game is really boring or it just looks good on the surface, they won't be hooked onto it anyway. Which is why I feel that gamification of things, if just done for the sake of gamification, would not really help. So what we've been doing is that we're working on our AI portal. And what we're working on is to make sure that we develop AI-based marking to give qualitative feedback earlier or faster, instantaneous compared to what students normally get as well. So that has been quite interesting. What the AI portal does, therefore, is that it allows me to give the base feedback that I want to give most people. The 80% is already there. Then I can give more insightful feedback. And then it kind of changes the role of the teacher in the classroom to become more of facilitators to help students learn, to close the gaps in their learning, than to just be the sage on the stage and tell you guys different things. Like I said earlier just now, we are moving to an era where information and content is easily available. Anyone can find any content they want. Anyone can curate any set of notes that they want by just Googling or asking any chatbot, for example. But now we are at a stage where skills are very important, and we want to make sure we focus on teaching them the key skills that will help them learn better, do better, write better, and become better at their different subjects as well.
Got it. Yeah. I
Yeah,
want to I want to challenge you a little bit there when you mentioned
sure.
facilitator. Do you think that AI could even be a better facilitator being infinitely patient?
Uh, it is possible that the AI can be infinitely patient, but sometimes infinite patience is not the best thing, isn't it?
True.
If anyone has any kid, I mean, you try to be infinitely patient to that child, it doesn't really work out all the time, right? There is
Mm,
the human experience and the human touch of time. Okay, maybe this is too much. I
yeah.
think we have to draw a line here. Stop doing this. Start doing this. And
Mm,
I feel that actually it's a little bit like what we talked about earlier on, where you mentioned that how when I spoke to some of my students, we had a very close rapport,
yeah.
almost a
Love that.
father-like, brother-like
Yeah.
figure, right? This is
Correct.
something AI can't replace ultimately.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that all teachers should do this, but the very presence of a teacher and a student side by side is part of the human experience that the AI cannot replace, but it can facilitate also. But the
mm,
teacher ultimately is still the best facilitator because you can understand and empathize with the emotions of the students. And the learning
mm.
goes through you in the sense that you are that conduit, right? That the AI can help, but it cannot replace fully. It will be very,
Yeah.
very, very far away from doing that at this point in time. Unless all learners change to become non-empathetic, they don't have emotions or feelings anymore, then it's possible, I think. Since again, we're not teaching the subject, we are teaching the student.
Yeah, well, I really love that. Like,
Yeah.
it's really about not just delivering info and content like you're saying, because info and content is so readily accessible these
Yeah.
days. It's really about teaching the student. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, so I guess the AI,
Yeah.
especially generative AI, is progressing at a really fast rate these days.
Mm. Yes.
Better models are coming out. We're
Yeah.
expecting it to be a lot more precise, and a lot more truthful as well. Because with these AI models, sometimes they could make mistakes. So I guess in
Yeah.
that world, let's say 2 years from now, where AI
Mm.
models become um, really good, like how do you envision your agency fully capitalizing on that?
Actually, the better the AI gets, the better it is for us to actually do what we're doing, right? It
Mm,
sharpens our craft better.
yep,
Uh, the reason why we are trying to get ahead is to recognize that AI has a lot of potential to
yep,
help students and is progressing, like I said, at a very fast pace, which means that whatever tool we're using now is going to be eventually outdated. And I see
yeah,
companies spending like millions of dollars on tools,
correct.
and many educators from the education world would lament that tools are tools.
Yep,
Technology has always been just a tool. No matter how good the tool is, it is still a tool. And
yep.
what you need to do to leverage on those tools is to have curriculum designers, teachers who are able to employ the tools masterfully.
Mm,
And so, as long as AI develops better, faster, stronger, it will just mean that we have a sharper tool to use to deliver lessons with greater precision and effect. So I'm looking forward to that. And the whole point why we got into this early on
amazing.
was that we want to learn how to prompt the AI better. Because
Mm,
in time to come, we will see more gaps, and in time to come, we will see more ways that we can use AI to really help. There are those, for example, who believe that we can use AI as a form of mass personalization.
yep.
And if you look at learning, learning is moving towards the direction where we're trying to personalize everyone's learning towards their own strengths and their own weaknesses. And that's what teachers try to do,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Immediately on the spot, I'll try and diagnose you. My philosophy has always been what I learned as well, that teachers are like doctors. So our task is to diagnose your learning needs, prescribe you with the right strategies and medication to overcome the problems that you have so that you'll be healthy, right? And the same way, the AI tool can be used to help us diagnose students. It can be
mm,
used to help us accelerate the delivery of the medication if you want. But at
yep.
the end of the day, it's still a tool. So I'm looking forward to the tool being better because having a better tool means that I'm going to be a better teacher in the end.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So speaking about personalized education, like
Hmm.
how do you plan to implement that?
So imagine
Mm,
if I could use an AI to kind of diagnose your current level
current
of
level, correct?
proficiency or
Mm,
understanding. Let's say, let's look at English. Maybe I can diagnose your ability to understand complex vocabulary of a certain type.
got it.
Maybe, right? So what the AI tool can do is to help us diagnose and also help us deliver certain things. But
Mm,
at the back end, we teachers have been the one who kind of like feed it different things they want to feed the students. So it could be that AI could help us auto-generate questions of a certain level or a certain difficulty. It could help us track the results that the students have gotten. It
Yep.
could provide us with a base layer of, let's say, feedback to help the students. And then the educators on the end can see, okay, let's try a different medication now. Let's go for something a bit more impactful. Maybe this student needs chemotherapy or something like that, and we can try a different approach. So at the end of the day, I feel that mass personalization can be done even better, even faster with AI. Because right now, what
Got
we're
it.
doing in class is that, firstly, you look by any good school, right? You have to
Yep.
go to the student and you got to try to diagnose on the spot.
Yep.
And what makes a good teacher really good is that the teacher can immediately look at your face and tell you, okay, Lennon, I think that you are 75% not very sure. Can you
That's
please ask me
amazing.
some questions, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it requires a lot of years of experience to get there. But the AI can immediately allow you to see whether that child is already at that proficiency or not.
Got
And that saves a
it.
lot of time. And I feel that ultimately that makes teachers, like I said, more efficient in their approach as well.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, yeah,
What's your sense on teachers' perceptions towards AI? Like
yeah.
how they dealing with it? Are they worried about it? Are they worried it will
Hmm.
replace their job?
So I think most
Mm.
teachers are stuck in between. It's either, okay, this is going to be a tool to help me, but
Yeah.
not everyone knows how to use it yet.
Mm.
With all new technology, there's some time taken to adapt to it, right? And I
Mm.
feel that will take some time for the average teacher out there to kind of be familiar and to be comfortable with it. On the other hand, you also have the other group of people who are very willing to accept AI and to use it in their lives.
Yep.
And these are teachers that probably already realize that, wait, maybe the skill I should try and teach my students in the future is how do they learn how to prompt the AI themselves, for
Mm.
example. Because a
Mm.
good prompter is someone who has the right skills and understanding of what the final end product is like. And maybe
Mm.
we're moving away from looking at end products per se, but looking at the process of building the end product that really counts. But that's
Mm.
essentially the skills you want to teach students, right? You want to teach them how to create the product, then just finish the product and be done with it. That's why I move away
Mm.
from rote learning and memorization. Yeah, there are some
Makes
teachers who
sense.
are a little
Yeah.
bit fearful of AI replacing them. If they
Yeah.
are fearful, though, it just means that they don't have the right angle of looking at things because maybe what they've been doing has been quite at the base level then. And therefore, if
Uh,
you look further at how they're helping their students, you realize they actually add a lot more value than they think uh, they do. And AI can never replace that, as we see just now, like the human
mm.
touch and
Correct. That
the
human
ability to
touch.
diagnose students. You can't replace that with AI that much as well.
Got it. So we talk a bit about like
Yeah.
the future of AI and how it's like improving really quickly. But I guess bringing back to today, what are some
Hmm.
of the problems that you still see with today's AI?
I can see that actually is a bit repetitive in terms of the words that they use.
Mm.
So having seen a lot of essays in my life, I can kind of guess whenever someone uses a chat GPT
You could?
essay. Yeah, like there's
I
some
see.
words that stand out a lot,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
tapestry, for example, always
Correct.
appears. Yeah, maybe like, wait, this sounds very familiar. Are you sure? Because the student will submit essays to you, right?
Correct.
Then those who are trying to be funny, they will try and submit to you chat GPT work.
Yeah.
Then you look at it at first glance and you know, wait, this is a waste of my time, right? Thankfully, most students don't do that, but once in a while you will see it.
Yeah.
And I feel that what may be a problem with AI right now is that they are copying the same phrases again and again.
Mm.
Maybe the word bank is not broad enough, or maybe he has not seen it being used elegantly in different ways. Yeah. The other thing, of course, is that now the new features that you see here and there on different AI platforms,
Mm.
but they are still in the beta phase. There are still mistakes being made in terms of accuracy,
Mm.
or whether it is factual or not, or
Mm.
whether it follows or adheres to your instructions that well or not. Yeah, but I
Mm.
do feel that actually, the way it is growing, it does actually help people who are leveraging on them become better at their work as well.
Yeah. The better you are at English, the more
Mm,
precise you are, the better you're able to prompt
yeah,
the AI to do what you need it to do.
yeah.
So if you're really vague, then the AI a little bit like a human being, like wouldn't know what your instructions are, and
But you're right.
end
The thing
result
is
will be
that
bad. Yeah.
it's like a human being, right? So actually, it helped me understand that maybe what if I'm teaching my students in a way that's not as sharp as it could be?
Hmm.
What if I'm like telling my staff instructions they are too vague too? So it kind of like helps you reflect a little bit on
Yeah.
what you're putting in as the input.
Yeah.
So it comes back and forth. And I feel that, yeah, of course, there are gaps that AI will have now, but it should and it would continue to improve. That's the whole point of self learning anyway.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
the only worry that maybe some people will have is that what if he self learned to a certain extent?
Hmm.
But you realize that, of course, AI can never replace the human input and the human thought process, not anytime soon.
Right.
And the base requirements of what we want to do that can be enhanced by AI should be the way forward to help humans become better at what they're doing. So
Correct.
the AI
Correct.
assistance part will really help a lot.
Makes sense. Okay, I guess to end off this podcast, could you describe your feelings towards AI in one word?
One word, that's tough.
Yeah, I mean,
Let me think.
what's a
I don't want to go
good
for
one?
a simple word, but
We'll expect more out of you.
yeah. So I'll probably use like my favorite word,
Okay.
which is transient.
Transient.
Like
Huh.
yeah,
Okay.
transient is how
Interesting.
things pass on with time and they may
Yeah.
fade away. They don't always remain constant. The reason why I
Mm.
would say that first is that many people see AI as a fad, a
Yeah.
kind of period that we have to go through.
Yep.
I agree and disagree at the same time. It's of course possible that we are going through a period just for now, but the reality is that it's a tool that will always stay,
Yep.
right? And so the question is, how long do you want to leverage on AI, or how long do you want to pretend that it's not there in the first place? And so the reason
Mm.
why I chose transit is that I feel that it has come into our lives and it will stay for some time.
Yep.
But I hope we don't forget it
Mm.
and to turn on to other tools. Like I said, the problem with edtech for many, many years, people spend millions of dollars trying to develop a new product, but at the end of the day, it's just a tool.
Mm.
And so if you recognize that as a teacher, or even for students too, right, there are many, many tools that you can use
Yep.
in your toolbox to help students, then you realize that actually is a helpful tool for now, but that may change next time.
Mm.
Maybe next time there'll be a better version of AI or something that's different from AI in the first place that will help students learn better. And as all educators got to do, we have to keep evolving ourselves to help students better, and that will make us better teachers in the end. And so
Love that.
that's my
Love
word
that.
views. Yeah.
That's great. That's amazing. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess thank you, Timothy, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and
It's been a fun chat
it's been
overall.
great. Yeah.